What's up, you bunch of thick-wristed confidants of mine? It's us. We're back. It's the Psycho season, what is this, episode 4? We took a week off because we had to, and we deserve it. And we're grown-ups, and we don't have to justify anything to you. But we're back. We cover like 2 weeks of stuff in the same amount of time. Find out how, shortly. We talk about Chainsaw Man, episodes 3 and 4, House of the Dragon finale, Mob Psycho, My Hero Academia Season 6. We get into all the news, and there is such an overwhelming amount of news. Black Adam and its box office results and its reviews. DC Studios having James Gunn as their new co-chair and co-CEO to build that whole thing. We get into that. And then like so much Henry Cavill news with the Superman stuff and the Witcher Season 4 controversy. We break all that down. And then we finish with Spy Family and To Your Eternity Season 2, which is live and we are now covering. And of course, we finish with the Q&A, the Instagram sensation that is sweeping the nation, which we do on our Instagram at Part Time Otaku Podcast every Monday. Send us your questions then. I think that's it. Follow us on the podcast at on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, all that stuff. And I have a surprise for you. Listen to this.
Psycho Season 1, 2, 3, 4.
Whew. How about that?
Spicy.
That was some music for your ears. Thank you, everyone.
Oh my god.
Thank you to the friend of the show, Bronson.
Huge fan, huge friend. Truly the third trifecta of the show, I think, at this point.
Yeah, that's
from what he's provided for us.
2 intros in a row. And I love it. So, yeah.
You know, it started, a little bit of backstory on that. It was at the movie theater with Bronson. I slyly brought it up. I was like, hey, we both got kids. We got fresh babies there. We got a lot on our plates, but we got Psycho Season going on. So, what you saying? And he hit us with this last week, and I think both our pants flew off. So thank you, Bronson. We absolutely love this track. It's exactly what Psycho Season needed.
It is, and it's one of those things where it's like, what do you think? Any notes? Should we change this? It's like, no, this is fantastic.
No.
You just
I'll take
ship
that
it.
now.
So hell yeah. Another note at the top of the show. I'm sorry we weren't here last week, but we're grown-ups, okay? And things happen. You don't know. We could have been in a fire. We weren't, but like
you can't see our faces.
Yeah, you don't know what we look like. But we're back, and we've got doubly the amount of things to talk about. Most of them we're just gonna we're a couple episodes behind on basically everything, like Chainsaw Man, which we're gonna talk about in a second. But we're gonna double it up. We got Grant. There is so much news.
I know, and it's so funny. I went over like our newsfeed list, and I was like, "This is all news to me." So this is perfect.
And a lot of it is big. A lot of DC stuff, Henry Cavill stuff.
Moves are being made for sure.
Yeah, seriously excited to get into that. But first, let's start with Chainsaw Man.
Chainsaw Man, Dave.
I watched this I watched this 20 minutes ago. Because
of course.
It's so close to the time we record. But go ahead.
But I think last week's episode was great, and I think I was about halfway through this one, and I was like, "Oh, I fucking get this show. I think I know now where the hype is.
Yeah.
Direction wise, narrative wise, I think there's still some puzzle pieces missing. But because that's the thing. Like you and I have talked about this, since I think the adaptation was announced, or the first trailer came out. People talk about the show like it's the second coming of Christ, or the manga, like the source material.
Yeah, it's a really
such a big deal.
deal.
Like the fact that it was getting adapted was such a huge deal, and it kind of just leaves us as like the anime only watchers of okay, where are these moments gonna kind of kick in? And I think it's and I'm not a huge, I don't like saying this a whole lot, but the show has such a vibe. Yeah. A very distinct way of storytelling, and the balance. I'll throw the mic to you there in a second there, but the balance of the show of, the fan servicey stuff, but the way it's kind of winding it into the story, and it's trying to do a moral tale with it.
Yeah,
and they are trying to take it somewhere. I don't know. It's you know, it's so funny. Like the people that like love to shit talk the show now because it's the big thing. And then you got the other side of people that are just like freaking out about how amazing it is. And I'm definitely leaning towards that. But like I don't see any faults in the show. It's beautiful. The action is unreal. Like it's insane.
The action is absurd. Like it's absurd how good it is. And you know what's funny is in retrospect, like we've had, you know, 2 Monster of the Week type fights. And both of them are like miles ahead of what the very first action scene in the show was.
Yes.
Like, I just remember, you know, like, to your point, this whole show was under such a microscope because people were so hyped for it. And then I told you, I was like, you know, everyone absolutely watched episode 1 of Chainsaw Man. But if you looked at the online stuff, like, the community was like, oh, I don't know about the CGI. Like, there was, like, a lot of nitpicks out there. And it's hilarious that was probably the weakest scene they've done action-wise so far, because the action otherwise has been flawless. Like, it's been so good.
It's really interesting because, you know, like they did, you know, like you just said that there was 2, you know, back-to-back Monster of the Week episodes, you know, like with like kind of like the main plot wrapped around the fights. But even though like they are kind of like, you know, both balls to the walls action scenes, they both took 2 different styles of the fighting. Like they really put an emphasis on a gassed out fight in today's episode, you know, episode 4, against the Leech Devil.
Yeah.
And the whole world they're building, I find that super fascinating. And you know, it's again the similarities to Jujutsu Kaisen are very apparent in animation style too, and fighting, you know, the way they do the fights too. But the world, but anyway, so like they had like the really drawn out fight, like the, you know, the exasperated and he's clearly not powered up as much, and in the last episode, it was just kind of like all brute force.
Yeah.
And it was weird how they really showed those 2 different fights differently. Like these easily could have blended together. Like
that's a good point.
When this episode kind of kicked off right into like another big fight, the first thing I thought it was like Naruto. And I was like, oh, okay, this is just going to be like, you know, the continuation of the fight, and it's kind of going to kind of repeat it, but there was just enough different to make it distinct.
And not only that,
I like that.
So I agree with everything you said, and that's an interesting note. I hadn't actually thought of that they like really showed how the protagonist, how Denji really changed up, and like all the action was done differently. Well said. But what I loved about this episode is they completely let the air out, and they completely slow it down. Because
right at the end,
you know, the last 8 minutes or so of the episode are like almost before power moves in, which I have to say is like unexpected and funny.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Of course it is. It's actually it reminds me of Neon Genesis.
Oh yes, yeah, wow, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, they live together, but it's so funny because I was almost getting like it was just so beautifully animated. What's his name? Hayakawa's like morning/day routine. Him just like making himself coffee, looking himself in the mirror, getting dressed.
You know what it reminded me of? Sonny Boy. It was a very similar, like, you know, hand drawn still backgrounds with almost like that pencil drawn kind of just like, you know, just a difference, because that's the thing too. Like they really show the 2 different styles in pretty much everything, whether it's the CG and the 2D or the hand-drawn stuff, and then even in these slow moments, it's almost like they do a different style itself, like, you know, artistic style. So but
that scene was like a chapter or like a page out of that Haruki Murakami guy I really like book. It was really? Yeah, it was just like so mundane, but like so beautiful, just because it was so nice to look at. And then power comes in and like throws everything up in the air. I do want to talk to you about that.
I'm in for power. I am in for power.
Yeah, so she's an incredibly fun character. Yep. I loved like the cold open of her like just decapitating random animals.
Yep.
All that is really interesting, but where do you stand on the Denji and like his character motivation being more or less cop and a feel? Because like it did get like a laugh out of me. I think maybe last week or this week he says something like, I'm going to kill you and then cop a feel or something to a devil. And I was like, all right, that was pretty funny.
So
but,
I think where the difference, and, you know, people can call us hypocrites if they want, but I genuinely think there's a difference between this and, say, you know, Fire Force. Which is like the biggest offender, I think, you know, in yours and mine's realm of viewing. You know, like Fire Force is shameless, and you could call some of these moments shameless, but they are clearly wrapping up. And I think I think maybe a more finer point to hit it on is this episode when he's fighting the Leech Devil. He's talking about like who cares a small dream versus a big dream, and I think that's the point they're trying to hit home, and they're using this goofy bit of copying a feel. Like it seems like a softball silly thing, but I think the weight behind it is bigger than like the subject matter. And again, call Supercuts if you want, but it's silly because like the comedy of it is so. Like right at the end of the episode, when she gives him like you get 3 and she rhymes off the Y, and just like the way like the screen changes, and he's like, oh, you're an angel, and she's clearly like she
the has
definition
the horns,
of a devil, in the stereotypical devil, and it's just I don't know, like the comedy is on point, and like I said, I think the internet has said as much that Denji is one of the most maybe not complicated, but like his story really unfolds into something big and grand, and I think this is just like a small little piece of yarn in a sweater. And yes, it seemed very surface level and silly now and like a dumb dream or whatever, but look at episode 1, like the life he's lived, like the even though he's still like being pressured by this, I'm blanking on the society's name that he's working for, the government that he's working for,
I forget too,
but it's but it's I don't know, I'm in for it. And I'm sure there's going to be moments that are going to be a little more over the top, but I think it fits into the story. Like, they're revolving the narrative around it. It's not just a throwaway gag. It's as silly as it is. So, yeah. I don't know. It works for me.
Cool. No, I think I'm more or less on the same page. Like, I could probably do without it in exchange for something else. But that said, their execution is kind of working. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, there are genuine laughs. Head shakes, like all of it. Like I don't know. I think they're accomplishing whatever they want to, which is interesting. It's a different take.
I think that like to kind of wrap that whole thing up is the characters have such fantastic chemistry 4 episodes in.
That's a really good point.
It all just kind of like it fits. Like they have their quirks with each other. Like the whole thing. Like he's clearly beefing with. What's his name? Is it Hayakawa?
Hayakawa,
yeah. Like clearly him and Denji are beefing. They're kind of see eye to eye, and the second power comes in and just like destroys that already existing dynamic. And
she just blew everything up.
And like he's like grabbing after the vegetables. He's like, you should apologize to the poor farmers that made this. And he's like scrubbing her, her feces out of the toilet and all. Like it's, I don't know. It's like I said, I think that's what reminds me most of Jujutsu Kaisen. It's like the Nobara, Yuji, and Megumi. It's the shonen triple effect. The 2 guys and a girl.
It's almost disturbing to think about how many similarities there are between this and Jujutsu Kaisen. It's almost a shame that they aren't like 5 years apart from their because like it makes it feel a little weird how close they are to one another. But if anything, it's like we're doubly lucky because this will probably end around the time. Hopefully, Jujutsu Kaisen comes back.
If anything, because like it's well known that Jujutsu Kaisen was kind of like the ugly, like kind of like the black sheep. Like there wasn't a lot of, they weren't sure it was going to do well. That's why they put like their C team on that project, and they had all the contractors brought in, and then it blew up. And I'm sure this was going to happen no matter what. But to see so many people be drawn to that and love that, like this was like a dead ringer for them. Of like, oh my god. If we thought this was going to hit before, it's going to hit extra hard now because they are so similar in those ways, but they're distinctly different, which is nice.
Yeah.
Also, we got to talk about the EDs because we've missed that.
Yeah, they're different every week, huh?
Every week, new song, new animation.
That's absurd. But like that's so ambitious. That's so much work.
Yeah.
That's like, have you ever heard of a studio being more confident of something? Then like that's absurd. No show does that.
Like. No, well, so Mappa did another show, like it was a Netflix anime that I absolutely loved called Dorohedoro, and the visuals were more or less the same. They'd kind of throw in a character the same. It was kind of like almost like a static ED, but there was like every 2 or 3 episodes there was a different song. It was by the same artist.
That's cool.
So but so like they have a history of doing that, but this is like
it's just so produced. Like it's a full song by. And then completely
and they're
different.
Also different. They're also different in their own way. It's a lot of fun.
Chainsaw Man's the best thing I'm watching right now. So
goddamn right.
I think that's where we're at. All right, we got to move along. We're a week out. There's a spoiler warning. We're going to talk about House of the Dragon, the finale, maybe the whole season. Let's just start with the finale, though. How?
Shit.
Yeah, it.
Yeah.
It clearly has set us up. I think it's a great cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think? Where's your head at?
So, it's funny because, there's another show. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to spoil it because I think that's one of its biggest charms is. But this whole season, it didn't feel like it till the finale finished. And I was like, oh, this is just a prologue.
Yeah.
This is just like, there was all the stuff, all the time jumps, all the stuff that was kind of clunky and might have, been hard for people to follow. I think that was all there just to get into the door, get inside, and then everything after this is just going to be like balls to the walls.
I mean, think about
Yeah.
Game of Thrones season 1. It ends with, Ned is beheaded, and the last episode is his son calling the banners to war and all that, right?
So I don't know. I think it was there was not a bad episode this whole season.
No.
And I think early Game of Thrones had a similar flow to that as well. But I think just all the actors in this, everyone involved was just dialed in from the get-go. Like they all grabbed their characters by the horns. Super believable. It was so cool. Like right off the bat, people were like, "Are you with the Greens or the Blacks?" Like it was very designed very well. Obviously it's based on his works and all that, but just from what I've heard, kind of like some of the changes in formatting to kind of make it a little more sense for TV. Like it's a very well, like narrative wise, it's a very well crafted season. Like now that it's all done,
it's
the
funny.
It's just the perfect cap off for that.
Like,
Because I don't know when you're watching it.
It's funny because I'm so curious to know. Who knows? Maybe it'll even be on this podcast. But I really want to know how we feel when this is over. It's fun because we have several years ahead of us of this now, because they're doing 3 more seasons or so. But yeah, like this is a self-contained finished work project. There's no guesswork. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, will he finish the books in time? It's really nice to know that like this is tracking with a narrative that is already complete. But yeah, really, really, really strong first season. Dude, tell me whether or not you closed your eyes or you looked away during the birthing scene of this episode.
No, I don't think so. I think I looked right through it. I've been there for the real thing. Like
I was going to say, you recently...
Fake TV stuff doesn't faze me that much.
Oh, see, the fake TV stuff, that convinced me not to have kids.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy. I just looked over at Leanne at one point and like just like cold face looking at the TV, and I was like, "Wow, you're a champ."
Yeah, that was
it was pretty heavy.
I don't know if I've seen a more graphic.
The season opener.
Yeah,
the season opener was pretty graphic, and this, in Game of Thrones fashion, it's always upending itself.
They showed a stillborn baby on TV, like
looking like a dragon, which was fucking weird.
Like, has that been done before? Like, Jesus Christ.
Did we not see Daenerys' stillborn?
I don't know. No, that they describe it. I'm 80% sure it happens, and then she passes out and wakes up, and the baby's gone. And they're like, oh, it had scales like a dragon, blah, blah, blah.
Or even, maybe even the beginning of the season, episode 1, when Emma had the baby. Did we not see?
Who's Emma?
I guess we saw him wrapped up at the pyre.
Yeah, but I mean, like coming out anyway. I don't want to get into the minutia of what came out of where, but
wild stuff,
intense. And then obviously like
that Vagar finale was something else.
The VFX goat of the season.
Blech.
That was absurd, dude.
I think the showdown in the clouds is, I think that's where, most people's money is going. But I still think when, Jace, is it Jace? Yeah, it was Jace that went in, or Luke?
Yeah, oh God, I don't know. Jace, I think?
Whatever. The one that went to Storm.
The one that died.
The one that died. Spoilers. Again, it's been a week.
Yeah, we warned them.
Yeah. So when he lands and you kind of just see like the lightning, thunder and lightning crashes, and you can kind of see just Vagar just like blatantly taking up the whole area.
That was amazing.
It's just one of those. It was one of those moments of, oh, he's dead. There's no question. And also, like, you know, the encounter between him and Eamon.
Eamon, yeah, the one-eyed boy.
And, like, them screaming at each other, like, in the presence
in
of,
that
like,
throne
you know,
room,
the throne room and all that. Like, very intense stuff. Just, you know, all in all, such a fucking awesome.
I think the best, like, what you have to give for VFX, the props here, like, among many things, is they did the scale of Vagar really well. With that shot you're talking about, like, because they really illustrate to you, like, here's, I think it's Jace, or is it Lucerys? Fuck. Here's
I don't know.
the soon-to-be dead boy's dragon, and it can land in the courtyard. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's
able to land, and it's bigger than him. It's bigger than several men, but it's still not gigantic.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they pan and they show you that shot of Vagar, and then there's like shots where Vagar's like below or above the other dragon. It's like, oh my god, this is like a rowboat in the Titanic. Like this is unreal. Yeah, that was visceral.
Also, to see, like, at the end of it, like, neither of them had control of their dragons, and it kind of goes back, you know, Viserys was doing this whole thing, like, it's a farce, like, you know, we can't control these dragons, like, we're fools to think so. And
I love that.
You know.
I went around the internet because that's such a great little piece of foreshadowing, right? Is watching them lose control. I love that.
You know, and people goof on him too, like being like, you know, he always wanted to be a dreamer more than a dragon rider and all this and that, and he had all these visions, and, you know, he never knew when any of them were going to come to fruition, and, like, by the end of the season, almost everything he said happened in some regard, you know.
Dude,
it's
really,
shout out Patty Considine. Holy cow.
Just get the Emmy ready. You know Seriously. Who I loved this episode more than maybe every other episode maybe, I don't know if I'll say that, but one of my favorite moments in this episode was fucking War Damon. Like,
oh yeah,
he's ready. Like he was trying to be like, all right, let's fucking go. He's saying dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. He's telling his niece wife, Rhaenyra, you know, your niece wife. Like, he wants to go, and she was doing such a good job. Like, I didn't remember that part of the book because I think I told you I may have read it, or I don't know if I read it. But
Fire and Blood, you mean?
Yeah, I can't remember if I just read an abridged version or something. But it was years ago when I actually read the Game of Thrones series, the Song of Ice and Fire series, and I remember, like, very little of it all. But anyway, I don't remember her trying to hold the kingdom together and not cause war, because she's just barely, like, holding the water in her hands this episode.
I do. So I think just from some of the shows that I listen to and, like, the stuff I've read online, like, just I think the comparisons between the book and the show, again, mild spoilers. I think Rhaenyra in the book is like, like, almost from, like, the jump was like, it's war. Like, let's go.
Oh, really?
Like, I think there's some elements of, like, her trying to not, like, full out scorched earth.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's kind of like, no. Like, we're clearly going to war. Let's do this, and that. Just kind of what I pieced together. I really. Well, I was telling you. I messaged you. We watched the first episode of House of the Dragon, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start reading Game of Thrones right now.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, there's this. I was like, I'm safe. They're not going to really talk about too much of what's going on here. It's kind of not ancient history, but or whatever, but. Right as I finished the book, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's like a major Fire and Blood spoiler."
Oh, there you go.
I was like, "Okay, so if you're reading Game of Thrones, everyone, watch out for that." At the end
Good point.
Book.
I forgot.
Stay away
about
from
that.
the family trees. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, is that what got you?
Yeah.
That'll get you.
It wasn't so much as a family, because we clearly know there's a war, like, for the throne. There's two sides, and someone's going to win. And it wasn't necessarily a family tree. It was a ascension list,
that sucks.
And it clearly showed who was the winner. I was like,
what? You got, like, a late game spoiler?
Late game spoiler, yeah.
Oh, so my god, that sucks.
Yeah. Like I said, it's gonna be it's one of the two sides, so it's not but it kind of bummed me out.
That's a bummer. I got a mid to late game spoiler on a couple shows. One we're gonna cover in a few minutes, but dude. You know what's been spoiled of at least, I don't know the details, but there's artwork circulating constantly about, like, some upper moons in Demon Slayer.
Oh.
And, like, I think it implies, like, a significant spoiler of some kind.
Okay.
And I've seen it like a million times. And like people caption it with the character's name, and I'm like, what? And it's like, so I think I just inadvertently sometimes you're in the medium, and you catch one, and you caught one.
Oh, you and I have been algorithms for sure. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, no. House of the Dragon, what a trip! It was fun. Again, it was fun to do Rings of Power. This, side by side. I think at the end of it, I think Hot D definitely took my preferred interest. But it's just more my style. Like I like Lord of the Rings, the books and the movies, and the stuff outside of it is good, and I enjoy it. But it's not really what I love about the IP. As dirty as that sounds, but man, House of the Dragon.
But what's funny though is what neither of them can compare to. The Witcher Netflix series. No, we're going to talk about that at the Newsfeed. That's a preview for you. Okay, move along. Mob Psycho. We're going to talk about season 3, episodes 3 and 4. There's your spoiler warning. I think this is enjoyable. Things are picking up.
Yeah,
and Chad Mob is like one of the best things ever. Like, when he turns full Chad and has like a deeper voice, and like his bone structure just improves.
It's almost like it was something out of JoJo, like the animation style. Yeah, that was pretty great. I had that like super spoiled for me. Like it's all like the second that happened, like everyone's Twitter handles like were switched to that.
Of course.
Like that photo, I was like, oh, what is that? That looks new. Oh, Mob Psycho, yeah. But
Go ahead, you go.
Well, it's like I said, Mob Psycho, is my favorite of all time. Like I haven't read obviously this far in the manga. I've always been anime first on this, just because we've talked about it before. Like the manga is great, the story is great, but like it's kind of intentionally kind of shitty looking. But I'm very much enjoying it, but I think I need to go back and rewatch it. I feel like there's a couple little beats I've missed along the way in the episodes. It just like after this most recent episode, like clearly like they're setting up like the new showdown with Dimple and all that between Mob and Hanazawa, but it's it just feels like very quick. Like it's I don't know if there's just something I missed or along the way, but and then also like this kind of where they're at with Reagan right now. I'm still kind of unsure like whether because he's being a little hard on Mob this season, but like they had their big moments in season 2 that led to kind of like their relationship now. So it's curious. I almost feel like I need to do a refresh on season 2.
Interesting.
And then rewatch season 3 again. Like, hopefully by like, the mid to late point of the season. And then I'm all kind of, mentally locked in for like the final 3 or 4 episodes.
I feel you. It's weird to me. Like, it feels a little odd to go back to the Dimple well, because Dimple's been such a fun character in the series. But then again, it's also like, of course he would. It's
always been there. It's always kind of been there. Yeah.
But what my inkling is that they're doing this now to get it out of the way so that they can finish with a strong second half. Because I would be surprised. It's always been 2 arcs. Yeah, I would be very surprised if it goes more than a couple more episodes of this. I think as far as the episode goes, it's fine. Mob's growing up, that's really fun. You're right about the Reagan thing. Relationship seems to be kind of changing a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's what I am finding is like this is the first Mob Psycho season I've watched week to week, and it might be a better binge. I don't know. Or
so far it does feel like that, yeah.
Or then again, they really always turn up the heat in that second half, don't they? Like
usually, yeah. That first arc is very much warming everyone up and kind of getting the first explosion out of the way, and kind of teeing up the real emotional growth in the second half, and
All right, well, stay tuned.
So the other thing too with Mob Psycho is like there's nothing announced, obviously, and this is just kind of conjecture, but when season 3 was announced, the people were not concerned. They weren't sure, like, adaptation-wise what was going to take place because, historically what they had done for seasons 1 and 2 and what was left for season 3, there might be a little more that might not fit in the window. So no one... Again, there's no confirmation or anything like that. There's been no announcement. But there might be, like, a movie or, like, a one-off OVA that kind of potentially wraps up, like, the tail end of it. I haven't read that far in the manga, so I don't know like if there's clearly something where it would require like a full a full movie to kind of truly wrap the story up. So it's I'm curious. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. It's beautiful. The comedy is fucking on point. It's it's one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. So it continues to slay that way.
Slay away. Okay, My Hero Academia. Let's talk about season 6 episodes 4 and 5. You're caught up, yeah?
Oh yeah.
So
how refreshing is it for this to be like good?
This is My Hero Academia, like all gas, no brakes. It's weird. It's just
Funny
weird.
Enough, could use some breaks.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's so fast paced. I love the action. I will say that. I love that. Like again, and I don't want to harp on it, and I don't want to like sound repetitive or too hard or too critical. But I firmly believe that Mob Psycho is the best when it's focusing on, or not Mob Psycho. My Hero Academia is the best when it's focusing on the main plot and character growth here and there. Like dedicate an episode to. Like a secondary character and that stuff, and it's about Midoriya growing up, and it's about the All for One lore, the main villain stuff, Tomura, Shigaraki, all that. Like that's what I want. I don't want.
Which I think is what we're getting now. Finally,
that is what
I
we're
think
getting
after this episode. Yeah,
but you know what I mean. Like I don't want like another half season or full season of class battles and stuff like that. Like we just don't need that in the show.
Well, I think this first part. What I'm hoping is, and I might be wrong. We've had these first 5 episodes, kind of teeing up, the kind of like what the end of the last season set up. Like this is kind of like the immediate follow up. It's gonna be the teams and who's with who, and getting the first wave and kind of getting like the Hawk stuff. Kind of seems to be wrapping up a little bit, which we can get into that if you want. I'm not. I wish I had a little more explanation to that, but. I think now what's going to happen is it's going to be Midoriya, Shigaraki forward. I think we're going to get a huge lore dump, or at least a good step forward in that. Yeah. And then all the background, the B plot is now going to be everyone else around them. So it's probably going to be 10 minutes of dedication, or probably 7 minutes of dedication to Midoriya, and it's all going to be broken down to all the various plot lines, which I think might bog it down more than it has with these first few episodes, because it's only been. All of them together. Now that they're getting a little more focused, I think that's where they might run into issues. But
what's funny is we were talking about Hot D earlier, and you were talking about a spoiler. I think I've had either the pinnacle or the climax or a big twist of this season spoiled for me, and I think how I say I always forget stuff. It's like, if I read a spoiler, not a big deal, because it's true. Yeah. I have a bad short-term memory. Sure. But I read this spoiler for My Hero Academia that I think is coming soon. I think I read it like 2 years ago on Reddit somewhere, because of the manga, right? And I think it's gonna this blank thing. I think it's gonna happen this season, and I'm interested. So there is that.
Get a lot of My Hero spoilers too. Like
really?
She's watching it, and she's like, oh yeah. Like you can see she's just like unfazed about what's going on, because she just gets spoiled left. It's the one show that she cannot escape. Funny enough, but
the algorithm will get you in one way or another.
The algorithm will get you. Did they? Maybe I'm completely misremembering, but did they announce that My Hero is not ending now? That it's going to be running longer.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that last week or the week before?
So I don't know if we did, but here's what we did. Yeah. I don't know if we talked about it, but here's what it is. Is the author said about 10 months ago, he said it'll be over in a year, right? Because I think you only do volume a month or something, right?
Sure.
Typically, I guess. I think that's what it is. But anyway, he's like, well, I said I'd be done in a year, like 9 months ago, and I don't feel like I'm nearly done yet. So, like, yeah, he hasn't said, like, there will be exactly X amount more issues, I don't think. Like, I think he was just like, yeah, I need more time. So, I think they're in their final stages of their end game. Maybe it's just taking longer than they anticipated. Sure. But, like, I don't know. I'd almost rather have that problem. But then again, if the show's been running that long, I don't know. I guess it depends on the show.
The show ain't ending anytime soon.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, dude, this is going forever.
Fully funded. Yeah.
Okay. Yo, you want to talk about the news?
The Newsfeed, we got so much to talk about. It's crazy.
Okay, let's start on the DC side of the house.
Sure.
There's a lot. There's just a lot. Black Adam. Let's start with Black Adam and The Rock being insufferable. I fucking hate The Rock, man.
I've got the #1 movie.
You see his like ridiculously petty tweet. He's like, "Oh, we really appreciate the 80% from audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes."
Oh my god!
He capitalized audience scores because I think the critic scores are like 40% or something.
Yeah, apparently it's dog shit.
Yeah, well, okay, so here's what it is. Let's just do it. Black Adam RT. Just to let's get the rating and the record straight. 40% tomato meter, 90% audience score. So it's big. It is. It has made $250 million. Is that in 2 weeks or 1 week at the theater?
This would be 2 weeks now.
I think yeah, we just passed our second weekend, I believe, of being out. So anyway, it's over 250 million, or it's about to be. That's global. Yeah, okay, so we have to talk about it because the rest of a lot of the news here is attached to Black Adam. So I'm sure you saw the Henry Cavill. There's a lot of Henry Cavill news, but the Superman news. Mm-hmm. Okay, so spoiler alert for Superman news, but he's in the post credits of Black Adam.
Oh right? Shit! I did not know that.
Well, that's why he announced it. He's like, "Well, I wanted to wait for everyone to see it because he just says like we need to talk or some bullshit." At the end of Black Adam, and that is
Black Adam and Superman are talking to each other.
Yeah, so I guess that's the way of them canonically saying it's Henry Cavill coming back, because apparently in some other DC property they showed Superman in a post credits, but not his face because Cavill wasn't like 100% on board, or they weren't on board with him. So like that led to the whole "Are you still Superman?" thing, because it's been quite a while. Right, he did Justice League like 5 years ago.
Was that like 2017, 2018?
Yeah, and then the Snyder Cut came out, but like those were reshoots. It wasn't anything new. You know what I mean? So like he wasn't in a new timeline project, so people didn't know he was 100% coming back. So along with that, Black Adam, The Rock won't shut up about like a Black Adam DCEU.
Oh my god.
Like, oh yeah, Adam's going to be a whole part of this universe. But speaking of that universe, James Gunn and a guy named Peter Safran, I don't know if he's a known quantity, but James Gunn and Peter Safran are to lead film, TV, and animation at DC Studios as co-chairs and co-CEOs.
Thank fuck. Like...
And
finally got someone behind the wheel.
Dude, I think they put this news out the day that James Gunn dropped the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special news, like on the same day. This guy
all the traffic. Yeah.
Breaks all the rules. He doesn't give a fuck.
No.
And I hope more people get to do that. Like I hope you're not
Guardians 3 must be in the bag by now.
Yeah, it's done.
So yeah, he's like sure. He'll probably do some promo or some press for that, but like I think he must. I wonder if that's part of the contract. Of like, no, like you got to seal this in blood. Like you're with us now.
Maybe,
I wonder.
But like
I really wonder.
He did Suicide Squad 2 before Guardians 3. Like they knew, but they fired him.
Okay, but he wasn't the head of like film.
No,
animation.
You're totally right
so
about
like
that.
Yeah, jumping back and forth now might be a little. I'm sure. Yeah. Who knows? Like I'm sure if. Both sides do good. They're all happy there, but I'm sure some CEOs wouldn't agree.
Yeah, no kidding. It's pretty crazy. Okay, so a couple DC-related things then. Green Lantern series coming to HBO.
Boo.
No one cares.
Don't need
it. The Joker 2 movie is still confirmed to not be part of the DCEU.
I think that's the right call.
That's for the best.
Yeah. I'm so excited for that. If it ends up actually being like a straight up musical, I am so in for that movie.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be hella good.
When they do quirky and silly like that, they're the best DC movies by far. Yeah.
Okay, a bit of Marvel stuff. Vision Quest, dude. If this is true, If this is a true story and this happens...
What's this? What's Vision Quest? This is the thing
Here are the rumors. Here are the rumors.
Okay.
You remember the shitbag ending of WandaVision? An ending so bad it nearly nullified...
Oh, Vision.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
So, you know, like, the gray vision that, like, somehow gets his soul or some bullshit and then flies off at the end of WandaVision? They might be giving him, like, a whole series. So not only is he not dead, they're turning him into more IP. And if they do this, they're proving everyone right about how Marvel is a fucking theme park ride, or they're proving Scorsese right. Because then if this happens, there truly are no stakes in the whole universe.
There's no weight.
Anyway.
Oh my god.
Absurd.
That's if I thought I saw Vision Quest. I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. This sounds cool. No. Boo.
Ant-Man 4 had a trailer. It looked fine. Our boy is in it. The guy whose performance we love so much from Loki. Because I think...
friggin...
Kang the Conqueror?
King Conqueror? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think... Yeah, he was supposed to be the bad guy, or the main bad guy for that, no?
Yeah, but he's also, like, I think he's just, like, what are we in not season 5, phase 4 or 5 or something? Like, I think he's supposed to be the big bad of all of this, because I think he's the big bad in, like, the far and away next Avengers movie.
Oh? Okay.
Yeah. So, like, I think he's going to be around for a while. It's Jonathan something.
Say Jonathan Banks. No, that would have been a performance.
Avatar.
David Lindelof is getting a Star Wars movie. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's writing it, and they got a director.
Okay.
They got a director who's someone else. I don't know who it is. I think he's a known quantity. I just forget his name. But I was just shocked that Damon Lindelof, he's the guy that wrote Lost and The Leftovers, which is one of my favorite of all time. It's just like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, there was a Star Wars movie where, like, at the end, like, it's like a regular boy wakes up and it was a dream.
Oh my god.
It's just, I like artsy writers like this getting, like, this huge piece of IP.
But you know, it's kind of cool because, you know, in the Clone Wars, there was an arc in revolving around Anakin, and it got all, like, kind of dream sequency and, like, you know, like spirit talking and all, like, some spirit walking shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, kind of like very Jedi stuff and Sith stuff. Like, over, like, there was personifications of, like, you know, the you know, the light and the dark and all that. It was, like, really weird shit. And if Damon Lindelof, you know, just, like, based on, like, what we've seen of what him doing, if he did something, like, super weird like that for Star Wars, like, brought that to live action, that would be fucking sweet.
Yeah.
I'd be very down for that.
Dude, have you seen The Leftovers?
I've seen the first season. It's the... I think I've told the story 100 times. But I saw the first season. It was week to week. It was before we had access, like, good internet and streaming. And I was recording week to week. And all the recordings got all fucked up. And I was, like, 2 episodes, like, into the second season. And just lost. I had no way of, like, watching them.
True say.
And I was like, damn. But, I should go back. Not like I have any time right now, but it's on the list for sure. It's
up there for me with, like, you know how I say, like, True Detective Season 1 or, like, you know, these really high stake or just really well produced dramas. It's, like, in my top 5 probably of that genre. It is fantastic. Okay. Because, like, this is the biggest news. We got to talk about this The Witcher, Henry Cavill drama. Because it is a big deal. So
it is a big deal, yeah.
We mentioned earlier he got confirmed as Superman. I don't know if I said this part out loud. It's bigger. There's more than him just appearing in post credits. At the same time, he also said, like, this is our way of confirming there will be another Superman movie. Okay. Like, it's all extremely early. There's no title, release date, not even a director, timeline. Like, they've shared and will share zero information, but he said, like, there's another Superman movie coming. Presumably maybe it'll involve Black Adam as a villain, or maybe not. Maybe he'll appear in a Black Adam movie separately, but have his own movie. Who knows? You know, James Gunn, they could do anything. Mm-hmm. But this news broke, and then 3 days later, in the same interview where he talked about being Superman for the first time publicly, it's actually on a podcast that you can watch on YouTube or listen to. It's on a podcast called Happy, Sad, Confused. Oh. It's fantastic, very mental health oriented, but also, like, they get huge A-listers like Henry Cavill. And this was a live event where he spoke, and he talked about being the Superman. You know, it was the first time he spoke publicly since the announcement. And then people are asking him about Witcher season 3, and he just says about how excited he is about it because they got the same stunt coordinator or something they had from like a very specifically good fight in season 1, and how he's like very excited about it. And that's all he said on The Witcher. And then 3 days later, it's confirmed. He releases the news that he is done. The Witcher is proceeding without him to season 4, and Liam Hemsworth, is that who it is?
Oh my!
Is going to be replacing him, which is fucking crazy.
I will say visually, I could if once he's done up in makeup, I think it'll pull off. The voice will be. I think the voice is what people are worried about more than anything.
Okay, so like, you know, I guess.
Do you want to unpack this a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. So like, maybe we'll give our own takeaways.
Sure.
I think I'm gonna go first because you don't even watch the fucking show because you hate it.
No. Yeah.
But here's the thing: is I think I watch the show. I think it's better than average fantasy TV, which, to be fair, is not a super high bar.
Sure.
But like, it's not punching nearly at the weight of like your Hot D's, your Game of Thrones, even Rings of Power.
Of what it should be based on the source material.
Yeah. There are a lot of problems, and as a guy who never finished a game or read any of the books, I look at it and like there's a lot of rough writing issues, plot issues, narrative issues, and also like some weird budget issues, but like they've mostly fixed that. So it's mostly about structure. If you go over to a book reader like Grant, from what I've been able to tell, these people fucking hate the show. Like they hate it.
It's when how there's just so much smoke taken out of it, like it's kind of an older style. Like I think they were written in the 80s and maybe like kind of leaning into the 90s, very like a European, because it's a Polish writer, very very Eastern Europe, or Eastern Europe I guess would be like the themes of it. So like it's kind of steeped in that culture. But it's so well written, and the relationships are like ultra complicated, and like there's such tangible like real life comparisons in the world. Even like they capture that in the books, and it just feels fluffy. It feels like a CW show to me. And like there's the moments that I've seen, the stuff that I could stand. I was like, that's good. Like they touched it. Yeah. But this goes to also Henry Cavill too, because he is such a
fan.
Avid fan of the source material, and this was like one of his dream roles. And there's all this stuff coming, and you and I were talking to, and I it's kind of, again, a lot of again, here's this word again, conjecture, but there's a lot of talk on the internet, and apparently there was an interview with one of the writers from the show who has since left, and only him and Henry Cavill are the ones like openly saying how the showrunners have no interest in the source material.
Yeah,
it's just a name, they're just doing with it what they want. And like the writer got laughed out of the writing room because they're like, this story is awful. Like, we're just gonna do what we want. Like, all this stuff is coming out, and how like they clearly have no care about the source material, and it's just like a it's just like a giant cardboard.
It's crazy because we've seen evidence that adaptations can be great without them having to be 100% loyal.
Sure.
But as a guy who didn't read the source material, it's so clear that Cavill's by far and above the best part of the show. Like, it's not even close, dude. This is what I'm shocked about. Like, I read the subreddit and the reactions to this. Like, I think, like, I don't know if they get another season after Liam Hemsworth's season. Like, it just seems like it might really get away from them here.
Okay, here's the thing though, Dave. Do you know who and this is I'm not shit talking here, but do you know who loves The Witcher?
Who?
Fucking middle-aged dads who only have Netflix.
Yeah.
And that is going to continue fueling the numbers. All they see, like, there's such a huge, again, it's a classic case of a vocal minority of a somewhat niche book series. It's a vocal, they're the vocal.
It's in there. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So like these show, and like Netflix has always been the progenitor of this like kind of content. Like people don't care how accurate it is for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so many eyes on it. People just watch it. Lord of the Rings on Prime was a big deal because the IP is fucking massive, right?
Yeah.
Had so many eyes on it, and that is what can make or break a show. The Witcher, for the most part, people I don't think care. Like, you know, you watched it and you said it was fine. It was completely fine in some moments, less in others. But, for someone like me who just doesn't watch it because they can't get it, like, Netflix doesn't care about those people. I think the show is going to be completely fine. But, and, like, I think Liam Hemsworth will be fine. I think the voice is what people are going to harp on him.
Yeah. Henry Cavill had really nailed the voice. I will say this, though. I agree with everything you said. But are there many examples of a hit global TV show that had a protagonist and the main character leave halfway through?
Source material?
What?
Because of source material?
No,
I think
no.
that's first.
Well, not because of the... No, but I just mean they left for whatever reason, and then the show replaced that person and continued to be successful. The only thing I can think of is like 2.5 Men, and even that, like, it got, a quarter of its... remember Charlie Sheen and Ashton Kutcher swapping? That was like a huge deal.
Oh, fuck. Wow. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Because they were rolling in all the money at that point, right? Netflix wasn't like Netflix yet. But anyway, it's just like... I think it's a huge testament that it came to the point of him legit leaving. Like, it must have been extremely tenuous. It's hard to say, or it's hard to picture, rather, them being more successful than they have been when the main character of the show walks out. Like, it just... I could be wrong, but it just... is there any precedent for that ever happening? Like, when you lose the guy on the bill?
No, not that I can think of. But I genuinely believe it'll be fine.
Wrong. All right, my prediction on record, doesn't see a season 5. No fucking way.
All right.
On record. We'll see.
Yeah, all right.
At the rate this show comes out, someone remind us in 2026. We'll find out.
We need... Okay, a little addendum to that. We need to see, like, how many shows Netflix is cutting that year. Because if they're just, like, cutting everything...
No addendum.
And The Witcher goes...
No
then
addendum.
I think there's some room for that. But,
It won't get cut if it's a hit. Right now, it's in their top 5 or top 3 of most ever watched on the platform in terms of numbers.
So if Cavill's not there, then not clearly putting some pushback on where the story is going, it could just go in a totally random direction and people don't like it. So that's,
You're adding asterisks. That's not the point.
No. I'm talking it out loud. I'm just having a conversation. We're having a podcast, goddammit.
I'm just saying. There are many
Yeah.
reasons why it may not see a season 5, but I'm saying it all stems from here.
Sure.
Right? Like, they've created more failing points by this happening, right? Like, they have a crack in the foundation now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, how it breaks. I don't think my point wasn't like how it breaks. It's like it's gonna break. It's my point. But yeah, that's a big one. And I gotta say, here's one thing that people picked up from that interview I mentioned, the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast that he did live, where he talked about being Superman, and then he talked about season 3 of The Witcher coming up, and the news wasn't out yet. Someone asked him about, like, how do you avoid, like, it's hard to believe you haven't been approached by Marvel or Star Wars. You're like this very franchise-friendly face. How have you not completely sold out? Because even Superman, like, you're such a dork about. And his quote, which is so funny, because it's so clearly about The Witcher, or at least applies to it. This is his quote. It's just about belief. If you believe what you're doing is right, then you'll be able to keep doing it. If you realize you're doing the wrong thing, then that's when you stop doing the wrong thing. If you just keep going, that leads you down a very dark path.
Heavy.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just like... No. And then the news 2 days later, Henry Cavill out.
Yeah,
pretty
go.
Okay. I think we can wrap on news. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
Avatar 2 is going to be 3 hours and 10 minutes.
To no one's
and yeah, news. Is that not news? I think everyone... I think they're just putting urinals at the end of every aisle.
I do hope there's an intermission for that one.
Yeah. And The Last of Us show premieres in January. We have to watch that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I didn't know that was announced yet, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Pedro Pascal, dude.
He is he's one of the goats.
He's one of the better TV actors out there. Actually, he was in that movie with what's his face? The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh yes, you would. I think
Nicolas Cage. I saw that in theaters. They crushed it together.
Gosh, he's so funny. He's got great comedic timing.
Yeah, it does. Okay, let's talk about Spy Family 16 and 17 because next we got to have some words on To Your Eternity.
For sure. Spy Family?
Yeah,
digging
you
it.
Go. You're digging it?
I think I you know, it's I think the last time we spoke, you know, the last episode we kind of just hit the point of like, you know, the show it's kind of like comfort food, it's kind of hitting a mile, but there's a couple of moments in this episode that kind of got like surprisingly deep, and I was like, fuck, why is Spy Family not doing more of this?
Yeah.
So I think it's at the end of episode 16, there's like this weird like out of nowhere plot about that other guy looking for tips from Lloyd on how, you know, try to, you know, tips for a date and, you know, getting to know this woman and all that. It's very hijinksy and weird.
Yeah.
The second I saw it, I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, come on. Like, this is not helping the show's case. And then it wraps up into like a really deep conversation with the two of them in the bar. And I was like, wow, we need more of it. We need like slow genuine character development moments, because it's all very surface level, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Show. Like it's the mission forward and like kind of get to know the family, but it's not diving in too deep. But this is the first time like they really peeled back a layer in the show.
Yeah,
it's crazy that it's 16 episodes, and then the episode just ends, and it's like, fuck, like come on, this is what we need. I think
it's funny. I watched 17 recently. And it's like another hijinks kind of surface level fun episode. You know, the class makes like this weird paper mache thing.
Anya crushes. Goddamn shit.
Anya and Desmond. That was like a fun plot.
Yeah.
You know, she says this whole his name is Bond thing about the dog. That got a laugh. You know what this really makes me think of? And not in a appropriation or like weird. I'm not dumbing the show down, but like this is just Saturday morning cartoons. And like I'm glad.
I think so.
I'm glad that it's
Inspector
around.
Gadget, you know, like but like less like goofy, you know. Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's wholesome. It's silly.
I'm wondering, like, I don't think we're missing the point. I really don't think
we're not.
I think
we're taking the show at face value, and that's what it wants.
I think the show is very. I think the problem is it promoted itself so heavily as like more of an action and the kind of the you know, more thriller-ish and all that with, you know, elements of slice of life, whereas like the slice of life is like
it's the opposite.
House. It's the opposite, but even then, like they curve. I think just recently they've curved away more from the slice of life stuff, more into the action, because, you know, we had the whole thing about trying to get the bomb and there's a terrorist group.
That was a whole moment.
And like it was good, but like when it comes back to the slice of life for a hot second, you're like, oh, this is what I love the show for, and I kind of just almost wish. I think, you know, like. You know, the manga is like, you know, huge and it's long and, you know, there's like so much to adapt, but I feel like if the show was like a slice of life and like the spy stuff was going on in the background and like it wasn't even talked about, I think that would be funnier and would like kind of fit into the show more. But
You're probably
I don't
right.
know. I really like the show. It's, you know, the whole the Anya at school thing. I think they could just do a full season of that. I would enjoy that. She's so fucking funny.
The kid is a vibe. Like her big shock moments and that creepy up to no good face, for the lack of a better term. Her like
plotting
face.
Plotting
surreptitious face. Like that's a vibe. It's monetizable. I've seen the cushions already. Like I get it. Every time they do it, I laugh. It's funny, right? I'm like this 30-year-old man just sitting on my couch being like, oh, Anya, that's not going to work for paper mache, you silly. You know what I mean? I'm glad it's in my life. So, and I think
we must say peanut like 5 times a day.
Yeah, exactly. Peanut. Like that's like a good compliment to the show, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about To Your Eternity Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. So, for the listeners' benefit, this was like one of our top shows last year.
Yeah.
In 2021, we both kind of just like stumbled upon it, and neither of us. I think we both agreed that there was one arc towards the end that was not the super strong, because otherwise
awful.
Yeah, because otherwise, it was an incredibly strong first season.
Oh, insanely good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like it probably made like even despite that bad arc on the island, like I think it made both of our top fives. So
100%. Oh yeah, the show was fantastic.
We were really really big on this. So there's your preamble. Season 2 is here. 2 episodes are out. Grant, I think they did switch studios, eh?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so they swapped studios. I don't know from who to who, but it feels like a little bit of a different show in some ways.
It feels like a different show visually, and I think it's interesting because I'm not sure. I haven't been able to pinpoint if it's because so much time has passed and there's so much off-screen personal development or trauma for Fushi, whereas he comes off like a stranger. And I'm not sure if it's that or if it is just kind of slightly janky visuals. The writing is kind of a little fast and all over. Like they seem to be jumping the plot very quickly. It feels very sped up in the first episode alone. Also, like using the OP, which completely caught me off guard. Love that. Absolutely love. One of my favorite OPs of all time.
What'd you say is in the OP?
It's the same song.
Oh yes.
So that different visuals and all that. But so that's nice to have that back, which you don't see that very often. Usually it's a new song, but like I am liking it, but it's like I can't put my finger on it. It's a little off. It's only 2 episodes, but there is something off about it.
Okay, yeah. So shocker, we're on the same page. But I think it's funny. Switching studios is controversial and it's a big shock and it's a big change. But I don't know if that's the problem here. Like, episode 2, I will say, straight up had subpar animation. Like, even compared to episode 1. Like, there's a lot of weird, janky animation happening in episode 2. And that's... For it to only be episode 2 and, like, to have this happening is kind of worrisome. But I'll put that to the side because a lot of the problems I'm seeing here are kind of plot-related. Like, this whole knocker living in the descendants of... the original villain, Hayame, or whatever. Was that her name?
Hayase? Or that's...
Hayase was the original, like, villain back in season 1 that, did all the evil, and she's kind of passing down this knocker that Fushi left her with. Or, no, knocker found her on a boat.
Yeah.
And, it's like, that was such a big moment for the protagonist to overcome, but now like we just relive it like this cheap thing. It feels like a cheap plot mechanic. Like, oh yeah, it lives in their arms, so they're the only other constant, because we literally probably time skip 100 years in the second episode, 6 generations.
By the end of the episode, it kind of caps out with the 6th generation of. I guess we should explain that. So, there's just continuing passing on the knocker to like the grandchild or the daughter or the son. I think by the end they say it's the son.
Yeah, it is
in the 6th generation. But the knocker is ever continuing being passed on, which I feel like, again, like to your thing, like the plot wise, like that should have been like kind of phased out, or not phased out, but like introduced like over a few episodes to kind of explain. I'm wondering if they just have a lot to get out of the way.
Yeah,
I feel like we can judge better like in episodes 4 and 5.
I hope so,
because you and I are, it's...
Because episode 2 was legit weird.
It was very weird. Also, like, I don't know if it was intentional. I fucking burst out laughing when the owl knocks out the original kid that we meet from episode 1.
Yeah.
And the knocker takes over, reverses the knuckles on the hand, and she, like... Adam's family her way out of the building.
Right, Tenori comes back just to die in 10 minutes.
Just to die, yeah. Like,
And then, remember that scene later? Like, Fushi, like, speed runs. Oh, guess this person's dead. I can turn into them. Like, he goes the whole way. Like, even Reen died. Like, Gugu's love interest.
Well, okay, I did think that was I bet you that in the manga was a huge moment because I don't think they did good enough explaining. No. I think he was realizing in the moment he could turn into them because he just realized she is now dead.
Yeah. He was. It's like, just so like, but it was a speed run.
It was a speed run, but like only we know because we were so invested. I feel like the viewers who watched the first season, how important Rian was to the story, but like it just felt like that more focus should have been put on that.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. And then, you know, when he realizes it's Tanari later, and it's like, okay, like, how did you not know? I guess you see so many faces. You're old as all get out. But I don't know. It's I'm a little bummed.
It's also weird.
It's early days.
It is early days. I want to see how they handle Fushi because he's over 100 years old now. Like, there was a point where he didn't know how people reproduce, and he'd been on the island for 40 years.
Yeah, I feel like he would have figured that out by now.
I hope they don't. I hope doesn't remain the bumbling buffoon through season 2 because the character is over 100 now. Like,
well over.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If you're going to use this time skip mechanic because of he's immortal, like, that's great and use it properly, but like he should age, like, intellectually. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I hope he's still not like super green around the gills. Like, I'm only thinking of this problem because he doesn't seem at all different yet.
It almost feels like a step back from his growth by the end of, because like I know he goes into, like a kind of like a sullen mood because everything that happened on the island and and with everything Pure ran, which highlight completely saved but they had like a real good comeback at the end of that season. It was just like a nice emotional moment, and I felt it, and I know you did as well. And for obviously, like, he's going to be sad and all that, and he's dealing with these emotions, but for him to kind of just be clueless over it genuinely feels like a big backstep.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page. So that's a little discouraging. I really hope this thing gets its ass in gear in the next couple of episodes because, like, it's fine if season 2 isn't as good as season 1, but like, season 1 was just so promising that it's a bit of a shocker.
This was one of the shows we looked forward to the most this year. Yeah,
and it's very odd for it to go this way. But that's, whatever. We're not shitting all over it. We're just a little concerned. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Wow, what an episode. But Grant, there's one more thing.
Ooh, what's that?
The Q&A. The Instagram Q&A sensation that is sweeping the nation. We do these on Mondays. We haven't even mentioned the friggin' Instagram yet. God.
Silly ass.
Don't worry, I'll put it in the intro. Future David will have covered that for us, but past David for the audience. So the Q&A, we do it on Mondays at Part-Time Otaku Podcast on Instagram. We put up a story, ask us questions, we'll answer them here. We go long on these episodes, so lately we can only, we're banking questions at this point. Send your questions, we will answer them. Sam says, which subplot or main plot were you most intrigued by in House of the Dragon? E.g., I should give some examples. I think I have mine, and I think it was everything involving Matt Smith's character, Damon.
Sure.
I just wanted more of him at all times, because I really thought we might get more. Sure. In terms of screen time, but he has 3 more seasons to go, so I'm very, very curious about that. And then my close second was probably because it's a true subplot, is the consistent controversy over the lineage of Rhaenyra's children and them being bastards. I love that the audience was never allowed to forget that because everyone around them would not forget that. And that was fun. All the tension.
I think for me, it was one of the, I think the things that kept me, thinking and trying to figure out was probably the Laris and Allison stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what his angle was, and how he comes to this info and all that. Obviously we know he's embedded in the Red Keep at this point by now, but by the end of that, we kind of get, oh, you're a perv, you're a sicko.
Yo, but, I gotta say that was the biggest twist of the season. We didn't even talk about that. Yo.
Yeah. I was just okay, all right, here we go. This is a part of your angle. But,
interesting, man. Yeah. Everybody's got a thing, I guess.
Whatever gets you through the day, I suppose.
Yeah.
But hopefully not at anyone's harm. But I think the and also too his whole what was his deal against his dad and his brother and using them as tools for his ascension and all that. But I think
to also, recap Grant's answer, his favorite part was the foot stuff.
Yeah, call me Quentin Tarantino from now. From forward on. So.
He just put out a book, Tarantino?
Yeah.
I might have to give that one a read. That's probably right up your alley. It's
Yeah,
cinema something or other. It's like kind of memoir-y, but kind of also about his journey through film. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I've been eyeing that one. He's such a good writer.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, I think
We
are.
made it.
Yeah.
Good grief. We missed you guys. We took a week off because we can, because we're grown-ups.
We won't do it again until we do. So.
Yeah, we promise this won't happen again until the next time. Okay, I think that's about it. God, I don't even know what to say.
Shout out again to Bronson for that phenomenal intro. Psycho season, truly, it feels real now. We have the pairing intro now. So, again, Bronson, you're a fucking real one.
Yeah, now we know it really is for real. Okay, follow the podcast on Instagram, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, blah, 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 wherever you listen to your podcast. Grant, say the thing.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.